Disney has pulled out of Doctor Who. Is the Time Lord finally defeated? Is this the end for the Doctor's travels? No, of course not. Of course not. But still, there are some big challenges ahead for the BBC's flagship science fiction television show. Doctor Who nerds, this one's for you. I have been a Doctor Who nerd since way before time that it wasn't cool to be a Doctor Who nerd. Then it was temporarily, and now it's not again. So I'm right back in my safe space. The news has broken, and in a surprise to nobody, that Disney is backing out of its deal to, well, it's not even backing out, is it? It's not going to continue its deal with the BBC to make Doctor Who and assorted spin-offs. Well, one assorted spin-off. So the original deal, which came into effect a few years ago, has given us the specials, has given us 2 full series starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. Then it gives, technically it comes to an end with next year's spin-off series, The War Between the Land and the Sea, which was going to come out this year, now is coming out next year. Now it's been used to kind of space out the lack of Doctor Who on screens for a little bit. And the formal confirmation came out from the BBC press office. Lindsay Salt, director of drama at the BBC, said, she puts a smile on it, doesn't she? We'd like to thank Disney Plus for being terrific global partners and collaborators over the past 2 seasons and for the upcoming The War Between the Land and the Sea. Then, here comes the crucial bit. The BBC remains fully committed to Doctor Who. We sort of knew that, didn't we? Which continues to be one of our most loved dramas, as long as you don't read social media. And we are delighted, here's the thing, that Russell T Davies has agreed to write us another spectacular Christmas special for 2026. She also said we can assure fans the Doctor is not going anywhere, and we will be announcing plans for the next series in due course. Note the complete lack of timescale there, which will ensure the TARDIS remains at the heart of the BBC. So basically, the raw facts of this, no more Disney. In 2026, we are going to get, I think it's 5 parts of The War Between the Land and the Sea. We will get a Christmas special that Russell T Davies has been hired to write. Whether that was part of his existing deal or whether he's doing them a favour, we don't know. But he's going to do another episode to clear up what was left behind at the end of the last series. And then I suspect it's relatively safe to assume a brand new era is going to follow into hopefully 2027, but they'd need to start filming that next year. They'd need to write it. So just a few thoughts before we hit panic stations. I'm a long-term Doctor Who fan. I remember in 1989, at the end of Survival, looking forward to the next series. Then there wasn't a next series. The Doctor went off screen for, God knows, 7 years, really. We got the US telefilm with Paul McGann, hoped that would be a big thing. That was programmed against Roseanne, was it? Ratings weren't great. Wasn't until Russell T Davies basically had the power to make pretty much whatever he wanted, went to the BBC, said, I want to do Doctor Who. Doctor Who was backed by the B. 2005, that initial run with Christopher Eccleston, then with David Tennant. That was kind of one of the peak eras of the show. But just that little bit of story spans, 16 years, is it? A long time. Since 2005, the Doctor's not been off our screen any longer than, about 18 months. It's been a continuous run, and it will still be a continuous run, really. There's not going to be a year without new Doctor Who. They're cutting it fine, but still ongoing. So panic stations it is not, but a reset it certainly is. And so first of all, the Russell T Davies factor. It's pretty well known that the end of the last series was rejigged fairly late in the day to give us the... Are we doing spoilers? We all know by now that Ncuti Gatwa's gone, right? And that he's regenerated into Billy Piper, who is not the Doctor, or wasn't credited as the Doctor, but somehow in some kind of holding move to get them through a Christmas special by the looks of it, and to avoid having to cast someone else once it was clear Ncuti Gatwa was going to go. Regeneration. There's Billy Piper. The BBC may well have said to Russell T Davies, look, you got us into that, you get us out of that, it's fine. So it is also a fair assumption that by the end of that Christmas special in 2026, we will have a new Doctor. 2026, we are going to get a new James Bond cast and a new Doctor. How many years has it happened where we've had both in the same year? There's something to ponder. So whether Russell T Davies will cast that Doctor, entirely unclear. Most of it is questions without answers at the moment. But I think it's fair to say none of this is a surprise, is it? We're not in... the BBC hasn't pulled the rug. The fact that by the time season 2... I can't get used to calling it that. Season 2 with Ncuti Gatwa was shooting. Season 1 hadn't even aired. They were so far ahead. Then season 2 debuts in 2025. There are no new episodes shot. And I think most of us could put together, it's just like, might not be a series in 2026 if you haven't started doing it yet. And there isn't a series in 2026. We'd work that out. The rumour mill has long suggested that Disney was done, and you don't have to be a, quote, in the know person to kind of got that vibe. Disney is now indeed done. Anyone surprised? I'm not surprised. So I think the only surprise in the BBC's announcement is that a Christmas special is coming. And I would imagine it's guesswork. It's a holding move, isn't it? The BBC can't afford 8 to 10 episodes of Doctor Who on its own budget. It could stump up for one Christmas special if it was stuck in the shit. It might have been a bit backed into a corner and agreed to fund a Christmas special while it continues talk with other partners. Also, I mean, inevitably, as soon as this news comes out, social media is awash that Doctor Who is finished. Isn't it rubbish now? Blah, blah, blah. Usually from people as old as me, who it's not really aimed at. I mean, I remember the Stephen Moffat era, and he was adamant that it's a children's programme at heart, and I still sort of see that. It's watched by like my 12-year-old kid, my 14-year-old niece. They're really into it. It's supposed to be for them, and we get to enjoy it as well. Now, that doesn't mean it can be any old rubbish, and I don't think it has been rubbish. Come to that in a minute. But it's still fundamentally, the target audience for it is still young. It's not 18 rated. That's why we get Torchwood. That's why presumably we're getting the war between the land and the sea. And so there's still that thing. Social media would have you believe the last 2 series have been terrible. Ncuti Gatwa's been an awful Doctor. I didn't love him as a Doctor, didn't hate him as a Doctor, but I've enjoyed it. I think there have been some terrific episodes over the last couple of series as well. There's an awful lot I've enjoyed. There's some I've not enjoyed. I didn't like the ending to the last series, but so what? There's loads of Doctor Who I really love. There's some that I don't love. I'm just glad the show continues to go on, and I mean, is set up in a way that it reinvents itself so regularly by nature of its format, really, and it's about to again. You can change. I think both Moffat and Russell T Davies had said it's kind of brilliant that you can change the star and it's not a problem. You can do what you need to do with this format to keep it fresh and alive. And I think Davies had a go at that. I think his first era was more successful than its second for me as a viewer. But again, you go and talk to my kids, talk to my youngest kids. They prefer what we've just had. So then there's been a lot of talk of Disney. And I think quite a lot is forgotten about Disney, that Disney itself as a company is in a really odd shape. And the Disney Plus that made the deal originally for Doctor Who, back in 2020, whatever, I mean, it's 3-4 years ago now, wasn't it? The Disney Plus that did that is in a very different place to now. The streaming audience, the streaming market is in a very, very different place to where it is, to where it was then and where it is now. And it's just completely changed. Disney has pulled back on quite a lot of its shows. Disney, if you remember, in the midst of all of this, was deleting its own shows from Disney Plus to save money. Content impairment charges was the phrase it used, and it was stripping back the investment in Disney Plus, which it still struggled to make a profit on. And inevitably, whenever a big deal was going to come up for a renewal, well, this isn't going to be a cheap deal as much, and it was going to have a decision to make. It was always going to be a bit of a long shot, I think, to get a renewal once Disney had to start reinventing its own service a little bit. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be of interest to international broadcasters. I think Disney's probably the one, with outside of Apple, maybe Amazon, with the deepest pockets. But who's to say there isn't someone else with deep pockets willing to come in? I think one of the things that's happened as a result of the Disney era is the cost of the cheapest Doctor Who episode has gone up by the amount of effects work and splash that's been thrown at the show. It's quite difficult, but not impossible, to pull dramatically back from that. So I think now there is a foundation of investment that's required that the BBC's been open about. It can't afford to do it by itself, apart from a Christmas special. So there's going to need to be someone, but the chance of there not being anyone, I mean, someone is going to partner on this. It's a show that's like heading towards what, 65th birthday, still gets an audience. Still on iPlayer here in the UK, I find myself just going through, picking stories out and having a good watch. I was watching Terror of the Zygons the other day, really loved that. And so Disney has changed. And so the fact that Disney's backing out of the deal, sure, the ratings in the UK haven't been amazing, but the ratings for any drama in the UK haven't been great, really. You're all right if you're making The Traitors, but if you're doing scripted drama, that's quite hard to sell. Even so, as much as you can put a spin on it, the ratings for Series 2 dropped compared to Series 1. I'd imagine Disney is just like, we'll try something else or we'll just save the money. So I don't think this latest reinvention, in terms of ratings and audience, has been the roaring success that Disney needed to be in exchange for the money it was putting into the show. Again, no panic stations. It's still getting in ratings that are decent enough to keep the show going. And there's clearly headroom if it can, if it can do things that, if it can find a reinvention again to, as it's done so many times, bring in and recruit more of an audience. What was clear, just from anecdotally from my point of view, is the older generation. The older generation was kind of veering away from the latest iteration of it. It's perfectly fine. Can you imagine if social media was around like during the 80s and the response to some of those episodes and casting choices that now are seen a lot more positively? Hindsight and time is going to be the best judge of it. And so we'll kind of see where we are. I would also argue that this whole Doctor Who's gone rubbish, Doctor Who's gone woke, Doctor Who's gone... I mean, come on. First of all, I mean, the fact that it's rubbish is subjective. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I like it, you don't. It's absolutely fine. You know, loads of other things to watch. Absolutely fine. There's more things than ever competing for our eyeballs. And if it's not for you anymore, I mean, the whole Tom Baker collection is out there to watch. And, you know, there's tons of it where we can fill our boots for Doctor Who fans. Absolutely fine. Has it gone woke? I mean, it's just the laziest thing now, isn't it? Notwithstanding, like, look at what the word woke means. But Doctor Who in the 80s, you know, some of the stuff that it was doing, and it's just like, oh. So I just think it's just an argument thrown at people looking to throw bricks at it, really. Again, you can dislike the creative choices. You can dislike the direction the show's going. You can dislike the stories. All of that, perfectly fine. But just throwing a label that's just like, yeah, it's just not for me. Might be for you. It's just not for me. Doctor Who goes on. That's probably the least surprising bit of a generally unsurprising announcement, that the BBC is going to find a way to keep this show going, and long may it do so. It's going to clearly get a little bit of a break, which lots of people felt it probably needed a breath of fresh air or just a pause. I would guess, if I was in a predictive mood, which I am, that Russell T Davies probably will walk away after the Christmas special next year. He's got other things on and he's done a lot of Doctor Who. He might not. Don't know. No, he's the person who brought it roaring back, and I'm forever grateful for that. Who knows? His decision, BBC's decision, the new partner's decision. But clearly, by the end of next year, there will be a chance for another reinvention of Doctor Who, the latest, the thing that the show is ridiculously good at. I'm generally positive when it comes to Doctor Who, because even if they cast a new Doctor I don't like, even if they make 20 episodes I don't like, I'm going back into the archive. I'm going to watch the Happiness Patrol again. I'm going to watch Battlefield. I was watching that again the other week. Genesis of the Daleks is there. Inferno's there, you know, and it's fine. Not everything has to be liked by everyone, but the fact that this show is going on at a point where drama in the UK really needs stuff like this as well, I'm thrilled about. We wait and see just how the war between the land and the sea turns out. Will that be a one-off? I don't know. Again, I'm not in the know. But what the BBC's announcement has confirmed is basically a lot of what we knew, with the fact that somewhere along the line they're going to find some money for a Christmas special, which, don't be surprised if that's the ultimate farewell for Russell T Davies and what he's done for Doctor Who. Whether you like some of the recent stuff or not, we owe the man a great debt for what he's done for this great show. And so we wait and see, really. But it ain't panic stations, is it? It's Doctor Who. Doctor Who goes on.